Hey, what's up, Canada and beyond? Welcome back. It is Wednesday, June 26th, 2024. Do you know what's going on in clown worlds today? Every day is a brand new adventure, right? So, we're going to get to our amazing fan favorite guest here in just a minute. But I got to give you guys a couple of quick updates first. We desperately need everybody to get on board the like, subscribe, and share page. The physical implementations of Bill C11, C18, and C63 coming up means we have to regroup elsewhere and get off of these PSYOP platforms. So this is what we're trying to do is regather, regroup some people. And even last night, Rumble messed with our stream last night. So I'm hoping that they don't do it again tonight. They didn't actually post my live stream live. So only people that had the direct link were able to get into it. We'll see what happens tonight. Facebook has already removed us or not removed me, but removed my streaming ability. I was able to get on there live for just a couple of minutes this afternoon through a mobile device. They haven't shut that door on me yet, but we must be over the target. I know that since we've gone to the 5 day a week, 6 o'clock Central format every week, they have been making my life increasingly more difficult. And we're going to talk about a little bit of that right right shortly. So we'll dive right in. Tajana, Truthseeker, troublemaker. Depends on which side of the coin you're looking at her from. Welcome back. It's been a minute. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's actually good to be back. I feel like it's been forever since we've talked and I've been on your show, so it's definitely good to be back.
Life is moving at like warp chicken. There's like there's just incessant from every direction that I just relocated, and I've been kind of digging my heels in where I'm at and kind of picking and choosing the directions that I can actually give appropriate focus to because it's just absolutely ludicrous out there. So I want everybody out there to know that Tana and I had about 2 minutes to talk before we went live. We haven't talked in a month, so hold on to your hats. There is no telling where this is going to go. Uh, Both of us are like whirlwinds out there all the time. So the first thing that I told Tiana that I had one subject to start the seed of busting theories and shattering conspiracies to get the ball rolling. And that one being for quite a while, there's been this rumor, conspiracy, and theory running around that Chrystia Freeland was angling for the position of being the director of NATO post Canadian politics. If she didn't take over as Justin's position, then she was going to run out into NATO. But we can officially dispense with that conspiracy theory today as former Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte, who has had the last 14 years of destroying Holland and the Netherlands, is now being promoted to the director of the of NATO. And I suggest folks over here start getting up to speed on what this cat is all about because they've literally just armed uh, the Fourth Reich with our unified military services, and Klaus Schwab is probably cheering uh, bigly tonight. What do you think of that, Tiana?
Oh, I think NATO's been corrupt ever since NATO pretty much became a thing. And for them to choose the guy who pretty much ruined Holland, and, I mean, their trucker protests went on and on. Then the farmers came out. And then they won the election in the Netherlands with the farmers and pretty much kicked them out. So, of course, they have to find garbage, a new position for garbage. And I just find it really interesting that Justin Trudeau wanted to be in the UN and he got booed for the trucker protest out of the UN, and people walked out on him. And, Chrystia Freeland probably wanted that position, but I guess she's even lower garbage. So imagine being bottom of the barrel garbage and not even being wanted by criminals that made you a criminal. So I think the Canadian Liberals are losing on every single front, especially with the Toronto election. That was probably a huge slap in the face for them. And you can tell because it humbled Justin Trudeau, and to humble a narcissist like that is pretty huge. So,
Well, this is where I think it's where the chickens kind of start to come home to roost, as now we're going to start to see the direct influence and the demands on our country by these unelected people. This guy, controlled and ruined the Netherlands. Now he's going to have say over what our military input is and does, in escalating this proxy war in the Ukraine, because that's in essence what they're doing, and that's just turning into a giant shit show of epic proportions. And we'll talk about that in just a second, because I have a question for you. Of all the, we've talked now for a couple of years. So this guy, this Dutch globalist, and I was doing some research on him today. If there's anybody that is a more devoted Reich member and disciple of Klaus Schwab than Jagmeet Singh, Justin Trudeau, and Chrystia Freeland, it is this Mark Rutte guy. So we have definitely got another problem to be aware of. But this is something that I find kind of interesting, and I do not buy coincidence, and I'll ask your thoughts on coincidence in just a second. But over the last month, my website has had 30,000 hack attempts, primarily out of Ukraine and the Netherlands. Do you think there's any coincidence in that?
oh, definitely coincidence. That's how the NPCs will say it. It's all just a coincidence. We're just insane. It just so happens that you talk about these subjects, and then the hack attacks come from that area. So definitely, it's got to be
It's
coincidental. I
just
mean, it
right.
just happens all the time. I mean, that's what happens to mine. It's just you talk about a certain thing, and then the hackers from that area come, but it's just coincidence. It's all in our heads. As I'm just running the whole liberal narrative of gaslighting. So yeah.
Well, this is some of the other stuff. We're gonna have fun with this tonight here once we cycle out of that story. But yeah, this whole liberal thing, I fully expect now the hacking to come from within, because last night and the last couple of weeks we've really been exposing a lot of what has been going on with this implosion, dumpster fire, crime syndicate called the Liberal Party of Canada. And last night was another big one where some of these stories are big, like that's Toronto riding. That is huge, but it also gives them the opportunity with the narrative to narrow it down to only focus on one disaster, one dumpster, or one problem. So that we're not talking about the fact that John McKay literally just demolished Trudeau for being a corrupt meat muppet of the Chinese syndicate, and handed his resignation after 27 years of being a hardcore foundational liberal. So we've got to, and I think it depends on us to expand these conversations, because this is the trap that people are falling into in that aren't getting complete information. Oh, just Toronto's changed. No, 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 no. There is a whole lot of desperation going on, and uh, it in explaining why this liberal meat muppet failed in the Toronto riding, because she was a Chrystia Freeland right hand muppet for years and years, and it was her promised appointment position, and it's backfired on them,
Oh
in my
yeah.
opinion. So uh, this is, I think, endemic of what we're going to see coming over the next little while. Thoughts?
Oh yeah, one pattern I've noticed with the Liberals is if a story makes headlines about Justin Trudeau or the Liberal Party, usually there's five other stories going on with them. Same thing with his haircut. When he got that stupid haircut where he looked like he was one of the characters from Dumb and Dumber, and everybody was focusing on his haircut. Meanwhile, he had half of his Liberal cabinet just quit on him and jump ship. So the only thing I can tell people is if he makes it on Twitter or X, formerly Twitter, and he makes headlines, that means that there is a fire burning in the background that people should look into, because the liberals are absolutely tanking themselves. And I'm actually starting to be pro Justin Trudeau staying till 2025, because he's going to ruin the Liberal Party so bad that we won't have any liberals in for like 12 years. So I'm
I,
rooting for him. I'm like, stay till 2025, bud. Like, just
I,
you
I
go.
don't think it's going to take him that long. Like right now, in the polls will be updating here this coming weekend, but he's already in third place, not first, not second, but third. Uh,
That is
he's he's
awesome.
he's only ahead of the Green Party.
No way. The Green Party's actually in second place. So Jagmeet and Justin have tanked themselves so bad that the
Well,
Green
they're in
Party.
third place. No, the Conservatives obviously in first, but the Quebecois Party is running in second.
Oh,
And this is the part of all of this dumpster fire that scares the bejeepers out of me, because this is where I think Canadians are going to get blindsided by what the differentiation is. This is literally a provincial party acting at a federal level, right?
yeah.
And I don't think Canadians fully understand the implications of that. To be honest with you, I don't think I even do. But what I see coming with this is the move to separation again, for Quebec. And we still remember that, a lot of us, that went through that. And what was it, 97, 99, and this debate, do we break up Canada, do we not, da, 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 da. That would go very differently this year, this time around, if that becomes a major wedge issue, which we know how much they love their wedge issues. And that, I think, is a part of the country that we don't pay enough attention to, because most of the rest of the country are not francophones. But there's the real possibility that Quebec separatism, looking at the Trudeau government versus Polyev, they might decide to say, this is our play, this is our time to do this again. And the part about that is, I mean, really, fill your boots, Quebec, in my opinion. But the part of it is that nobody really understands is, what does that mean for the rest of Canada? It doesn't mean that it's 9 provinces and 2 territories. That's not what it means if they do that. And so we've seen a discussion developing across the country in different regions, moving towards separation. This is the longer that Trudeau stays in office, I think the further we get down that path, and that scares the bejeepers out of me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Quebec or the Quebecois party could ever actually win, just because they are a provincial party and a federal, unless people just vote against the Liberals and they don't want to vote for the Conservatives, and they split the vote between themselves to give Quebec more seats. Um, yeah, that's a tough thing to say, because if Quebec leaves, then Canada is no longer Canada. We all separate into
We
different
all
provinces. Yeah.
individually have to decide what we're going to do at that point. And
Yeah.
there's the point of that is there's a lot of people over the last number of years, looking back to even recently with Wexit, that are understanding this, and this is they're looking forward to it, and they would make this an absolute. They would take advantage of this absolutely. And at that point, whether the other provinces want to have this discussion or not, they're going to have no choice. But there is an upside to that, in that the instant that becomes a reality with any single province or territory, every one of these WHO, United Nations, Davos agreements is instantly dead. It's over. And in every province and territory would be left at that point in time to negotiate their own hostage arrangements underneath those globalist organizations. So, this is, I think, that's something that is going to be a bigger window, a bigger discussion in the Overton window moving forward, and that's going to kind of depend on the time Trudeau takes to pull a trigger on this election.
That is true as well. And I was kind of thinking there's always a silver lining to everything. And if Quebec goes, that means Justin Trudeau's son can't be a prime minister in the future, because we can clearly see that we make the same mistake over and over again by voting the Trudeaus in. So if we do go our separate ways, we'll always still be one country. It'll just be, the fake borders between. But at the same time, if we do separate, then we can come back and, make Canada 2.0 without the UN, NATO, and all of that stuff, which is right. Everything would be nullified. And it would be almost an instant way to get rid of these globalists, the WHO and everything, because I know Alberta wouldn't get into it, Saskatchewan wouldn't get
Nope.
into it. And we could
Nope.
actually kick some of these globalists out that were appointed and not elected. I mean, if you look at a lot of the positions now, most of the mayors that we have, some of the premiers, they're just put in there. Nobody wants them there. Everybody wants an election. They want them gone, and they are openly arrogant about not leaving. And it's Trudeau's the same thing. And I think eventually something's going to have to give, just like in France, where they pretty much just dissolved the parliament. They dissolved the parliament in the UK as well. And I think people are having had enough of everything that is going on, and the globalists are scrambling to try and still hold any sort of control over what they've done. But it has imploded to a point where they will never gain control unless they go back to their hellhole lot lizard mountains and just kind of chill for about 100 years like they used to after every reset.
Well, that's where that everything moving, life moving at the speed of Mach chicken plays into everything, and there's been certain marker points that I don't think folks can, when we have these discussions about our quote unquote democracy, and and the definition of democracy is literally ruled by the mob. um, and so this is where we're at here, where the syndicate, that like to call them, because they're just the mob in suits and fancy suits, and they're determining our slavery. But people, we haven't fully understood the implications of this mob merger, shall we say. The basically the charade of politics since the UNSDA. People want to argue liberal, conservative. It's irrelevant because they're all contractually obligated. That's the point where each individual turf war ended, and each syndicate agreed upon a truce and a peace to the bigger mob boss in Geneva. And so now they're really just arguing about who's got a hold of our wallets, who's the ones that gets to spend what they extort and extract from Canada. So this is where I don't see, uh, if anything, a political solution. I think we'll see more of a charade with Pierre Polyev, unless we hold his feet to the fire, early enough before he gets in, that we stop being dismissed as conspiracy theorists on things like the globalism, the UN, pandemic treaties, and those kinds of things. We have to nail these guys now before they get in their chair. Otherwise, it's just a passing of the baton, and the country goes back to sleep immediately, if we haven't done that before an election. So a silver lining to a longer term: we've got more time because we're basically out of runway.
Yep. No, I definitely agree. And as I said a few years ago, I think there is an infighting between the globalists, because they run on greed and everybody wants to be at the top. And so right now it's so disorganized, even within themselves, that people who were afraid about the WHO treaty and the pandemic treaty, I said something will happen where something will break it up. Just because you've had some countries that actually wanted a lot more. I think it was I don't know which countries they were, but they wanted more rules, and they wanted the WHO to have a lot more power. And then other countries realized what was going on, and they decided to retreat. And so now there's infighting, and even I think is the WHO idiot guy, Thedros, I can't pronounce his name. I just call him the idiot guy. Said that there was a lot of misinformation about the WHO pandemic treaty, and that's what caused the infighting in there. So even though we see, we feel like we're losing, there is a lot of momentum in the background for people waking up and realizing, hey, maybe this is not the story that I was told. This is not the narrative that I was told. And there's a lot more to this, especially seeing how 2020 played out and the power grab that the government tried to do. And then with the Liberals here in Canada, I mean, the trucker protest was worldwide, and Canada started it. They saw how Justin Trudeau, cut people's bank accounts down. The Netherlands did the exact same thing. And that really woke a lot of people up. And so a lot of people are still scared to say anything, but they are starting to realize, hey, I could be on the chopping block next, even though I'm thinking I'm up here with playing with the big dogs. They're starting to realize that they're just puppets that can be discarded whenever they're done with using them. And so a lot of people are now kind of scared to openly say this, but they're starting to retreat on a lot of the treaties and a lot of the things that are being said and sold to them, because I think they're starting to realize that their kids will have to pay for the decisions that they make today.
Well, yeah, I think it's it's the proverbial rats jumping ship while they can. In a lot of cases, I've been talking for a few months about the season of the political sacrificial lamb. Where half of the planet is being elected this year, and the mercenaries in legacy media call it the far right shift. When I call it more of a correction. There's going to be an overshift, but this is what we're seeing happening, and they can no longer keep the cat in the bag. So they're in kind of grab ass mode where they're protecting their most loyal servants. They reinstated Miss van der Lying again, just simply for fear. But yet they can't hide the fact that countries like Costa Rica, which we covered also last night, has swayed their courts to start helping them and identifying constitutionally where these IHR amendments were, eliminating the Nuremberg codes, in any semblance of accountability. So the courts are now helping them against these implementations, and it's just little things like that they're making sure the world doesn't know, because it's happening all over the planet. And this is why they're in such protective mode over their most loyal servants, which makes me wonder what are they going to sacrifice Trudeau? Appears to me that they are. I think that they've gotten enough of their ducks in a row and damage control done that they feel safe that they can control the next person in control of power, i.e., the conservative, through policy and implementation. So they really don't have a lot of choice. It's going to happen with an election, but we are getting stronger with these kinds of things in spite of the censorship, in spite of the abuse. Do you feel like we're winning right now, Tana? When you look at it from the 50,000 foot level, and to me, I see us as winning when they're giving me badges of honor and abusing me, censoring me, deplatforming me, when they are escalating, when they are falling apart, when their plan isn't going to plan. I see that as winning, even though it's far more chaotic than what it was, say 6 months ago. To me, that's us winning.
Oh, absolutely, because we're making chaos on their end. And so their entire plan was to make chaos out of order on our end. And we flipped the script on them. And so now they're in chaos. They don't know how to fix things. They're too stupid. They're not very creative. And so what they're doing is just scrambling and gaslighting until they can make a plan on how to go forward, which is why the Liberal government is constantly just gaslighting, parroting the same thing. But what they don't understand, because their IQ is so low, that the more they gaslight, the more sick people are of their games, and the more they will realize what is actually going on in the background. So if they don't get their act together very shortly, and they don't start, organizing, by firing Justin Trudeau, macaroni in France, and we've seen that slowly they're starting to sacrifice them, even with the macaroni being married to Bridget, who's Bob, story. You can tell that they're losing ground, and they're not really sure how to gain the reign back again. And so right now they're in this mode of, well, we'll just gaslight the populace, and we'll just tell them everything is sunny ways and transparent. Meanwhile, people are getting angrier and angrier and angrier, and because they're so stupid, they put censorship on online so that they can't even realize just how angry people are, which is a mistake on their part. So in their minds, they think, oh, if we put censorship online, then people can't transmit their anger across the country and across the world. But what they're also doing is not realizing how people really feel about them and how angry they are and the level of frustration that is really brewing underneath. So that's another mistake that they've made. And so they're almost in denial of their own mistakes. And I think we're winning so far ahead that if we keep this pressure on, I think the elites and the globalists are going to have to completely disseminate their
Well,
entire plans and start over again.
to me, this is so we're halfway through the year. In January, they altered their entire world agenda to focus on 2 points: trust and silencing everybody. And where are we right now? They have no choice but to sacrifice people if they want to gain any semblance of credibility and trust back. So we're seeing, these random acts of journalism in the legacy media, while they double down the hammer on any of us that are onto them and calling them out for what they are. While we've got more and more acronym agencies, working this Stasi script on coercion and intimidation on the private sector. It's a race, I think, in time where they're trying to. It's like they know they've set a time delayed explosion to sink the ship, but now they don't want to necessarily get off the ship, and they can't remember where they put it.
Yeah, exactly. And I've noticed that as well. I mean, they went on with, oh, we're going to have a pandemic, we're going to have another pandemic, and we have to
Well,
get
that's
this
still
treaty
coming.
in.
They're still planning that, but it's not getting any bite.
No, it's not. Nothing is
Kind of like
sticking.
Pride season.
Yeah, every single narrative they have thrown at us so far has gone down the toilet. You've got the whole global warming thing in the fire season, and so now you have Albertans and northern people in BC setting up cameras just to catch the arsonists because we're so sick and tired of their garbage. So their carbon tax, the whole greenwashing, green agenda is falling apart, which is what their next plan was, to lock us down due to global warming and climate change. The pandemic was so badly handled. I mean, an idiot could have done better. And that's how bad they failed. So then they tried to go into the entire LGBTQ thing, which is failing and falling apart within. You have the liberals and the Democrats, even in the United States, eating at each other. And so now they're infighting to the point where I have not heard 1 ounce of anything to do with Biden being reelected. He's not even going out there.
Well,
And so because we were putting things out there like, oh, they're going to put Michelle Obama because they want to play on the race card and this and this, they haven't even done that because they can't reveal those cards now because we revealed it for them. They're letting out Assange. Things are just really falling apart for them. And I have a feeling that they're going to get worse for them because they're too stupid to realize that they're failing and that they need to take a step back. And so now they're trying to get the bird flu in, and they're like, oh, we've got vaccines. And the only ones getting vaccinated are like 5% of the NPCs who are on their 8th booster. I mean, how many more vaccines are they going to last? Like a year before they even run out of those people? And so they're so greedy that they can't stop for 2 seconds to realize that their long-term plans are completely kiboshed. So right now they're just playing the waiting game and the gaslighting game and just reiterating the machine, the propaganda media machine, where every second week we have a pandemic somewhere and no one believes it, no one's masking, and they're trying to get the bots in there, they're trying to buy the numbers, and now we're all used to the numbers. There's people on TikTok basically saying how bot farms work and how they make people, how fake profiles work, how AI is helping these politicians. We have systems now of telling how many are real followers versus paid bots. And so that image is completely crumbling down for them as well. So all of these things that they have invented to try and keep us down is now going against them. So I definitely, anything that they come up with, even AI, people learn really quick and they use it against the globalists. So it's one of those tit for tat games, and I think that we're winning because there's more of us. If we collectively just all go after them and stop infighting, they wouldn't even have a chance by next year to do anything.
It's a there's a couple of comments here that I'm going to pull up here in just a second. Um, I think their desperation is probably got in my in you I I think that the person laughing the loudest right now, tonight and tomorrow, is actually Donald Trump watching the mad scramble and panic that CNN about how badly they are freaking out over controlling the debate and the threats that they are levying against anybody else that wants to do anything as far as for restreaming, rebroadcasting, or discussing. This is just, if that doesn't expose the madness, like nothing else will. And this is the part that they don't get yet, is their own Trump effect. TDS is their biggest downfall from the international scale or right to the molecular scale. And the insanity is absolutely unsustainable, and they are getting more and more desperate by the day. So this is my segue into pulling up a couple of comments here. One that I hadn't really thought of. I could see them Epsteining Trudeau. Um, that's we're not here to start any conspiracy theories, but there is a tendency of them using that as their cleanup method. But I actually think that it's Mr. Alensky at the Z yourself that is on deck for that next. But that's kind of a bit of a toss up. It's going to be interesting here now what happens over there. And this is a question I wanted to ask you earlier, Tana. We've known each other a couple of years now. For those that aren't familiar with you, or maybe have been living under a rock or whatever, uh, I want to ask you: do you have any family left in the old world?
Oh, in Bosnia?
Yes.
Oh yeah, it's literally just myself and my parents that are that got out, and my cousin was in the United States, but then when 2020 happened, he got scared and he went back with his family. But all of our families back in Bosnia or Serbia and Croatia.
So So that was the thing that I wanted people to understand is you have a particular understanding of what's going on there. Although this is, the conflict in Ukraine is not in your country where your family is right now. It's only because you've survived this once before. You went through this. It's only because of that you are here in Canada. You're this small portion of your family. So you have an innate understanding that this through a lens that very few over here can look at this through. What does it make you think, given what you're doing is a role in the media now, and as an information and truth influencer, when you hear that and your understanding of the military and industrial complex and the fraud and the money laundering and who's actually getting on that, what does it make? What are your first thoughts when you hear Biden saying that they're going to be able to allow contractor units to go in there, boots on the ground in the U.S. American contractor units?
Like into the Ukraine?
Yes.
Oh, the thing that makes me sad is for the Ukrainian regular people. And that's exactly what happened in Bosnia and in Serbia and in Croatia. So you have these people that believe the propaganda, and the industrial complex is just wipe everything out, and then get contractors in there to rebuild. Some of that money, most of that money, will be money laundered to other organizations,
Well,
and to other countries to fund other wars. And so when I tell people, the more you fund a war, the more innocent lives get lost. People die for no reason other than the politicians on purposely doing this. So I know this war started in 2014, and that there was, tensions between Ukraine and Russia on the Ukraine-Russia side, and then NATO decided to get involved. Now, NATO isn't getting involved to help Ukrainians or anybody, and so they wanted to push this further, agitate Russia, and then kind of corner Russia into a state where they had to attack. And so I've even said I think that they're all on the same side, because even though people are saying there's sanctions in Russia, I have family that have gone there. I have friends that are there, and I'm like, "Are there sanctions?" And they're like, "No, they just changed the names of things. We still have McDonald's, but now it's called something else. No one's losing money. They're just getting more powerful." And it's just this narrative that they tell the Western NPCs, so that they support this war, so that they can keep pumping money. The more money that it's basically like a land grab. So once they completely demolish a city, they're going to go in with contractors from other countries that are giant contractors, and they will rebuild these cities into whatever they want, which is 15-minute cities and so forth. Now, they have different ways of doing this. They either start wars when they need an entire area cleared up, or they start fires in certain rural areas like they have in northern BC and northern Alberta. And so they have to use different things. And I've seen people lose their lives who weren't on any side, in Bosnia, Serbia, or Croatia, who really didn't want a war. They didn't want the separation. They said, "Hey, listen, I think we're being pushed outside with, a narrative that isn't true." And a lot of people after the war, even the ones who were pro-war, realized that they shouldn't have done it.
so the country that the region that you come from, looking on this, 20 some odd years later or 30 years later, um, how did your country or of origin change after those same contractors came in and rebuilt your country? And then I'm going to make one other point that after you answer this one, I got another one. This is a great conversation. I'm so
Oh
glad you
yeah.
came tonight.
Absolutely. So what happens is we were ex-Yugoslavia or Yugoslavia. So we had five, almost like provinces. And then they split us into completely different countries. And I was just about to say BlackRock will then hire contractors to come in and contract. And so even now, if you go out on the street of Serbia or Bosnia or, Slovenia, and you ask them, "Do you think we should have stayed together as Yugoslavia?" They all say we should have stayed together because we were stronger as one. Whereas now we're economically weaker, military weaker. There's still tensions because, lives were lost. You can't really forgive that. That would take a couple of
European
generations.
culture doesn't forget that.
Exactly. So and just because of our culture, the way then naturally the way we are, nothing will be forgiven or forgotten, and so people will stay separate, even though they agree that we should have stayed together to begin with, and the war should have never happened. And so now you get foreign interference running your country. So prior to Yugoslavia, like, we didn't have taxes, laws. Like, I know people said that, it was a communist thing, but if you didn't want to pay taxes, no one was going to take your house away. You know what I mean? Like, good luck trying to get the government to come onto your property and take your house away because you didn't make a payment. So they brought in the large banks, and the banks started giving out loans. People aren't making enough money to pay back the loans, and now you're starting this country on a system that isn't used to that system, and they're going to do the exact same thing to the Ukraine. And so I can already see what they're trying to do, but because they riled people up based on their beliefs and their pride, it takes after the war and after the dust settles for people to realize that they were played like a fiddle.
100%. And this is, the wash, rinse, repeat of what these guys do. And when it's compared to now Ukraine, we've seen that exactly. The Black Rocks, the Vanguard, State Street, they're all making bazillion-dollar promises, and Trudeau's in there like a dirty old shirt if they don't Epstein him, or he doesn't take the long walk in the snow. But these are the conversations that people talk about, about the economic impact and those kinds of things when people think contractors. And it's that they use as a deception in the smoke and mirror game, because actually the contractors that I was referring to was the sharp end of the spear, the military
Oh
contractors.
no.
They're now basically, now we have given these trillions of dollars. Here, Zelensky, we'll give it to the military contractors for you. We have armed them right up the wazoo, provoked Russia, and now Biden is saying, okay, now you can unleash your dogs over in Ukraine, and these private contractors are going to go over there and start coming home in bags. I think this is a contractor conversation that's getting lost in everything else that is a part of the desperate acts that I think that they're going to possibly think about escalating. What do you think of that when I throw that into the mix as a possibility for escalating over there?
See, I have this like thing that I believe that Russia and everyone's on the same side, because when the UN came out,
Sure,
Russia
they are. They're all
actually
making out like bandits. They're getting
exactly.
to restore their borders where they want, all of these kinds of things. And this is the thing. I don't endorse Putin. I'm not a Putin lover. I understand this for what this is. This reset that Schwab talks about is backfiring. So their damage control is, and Putin, who was a spy and an infiltrator long before he graduated the young global leaders in the first class, went back to Russia and said, okay, this is how we win the turf war in 20 and 30 years and become the dominant superpower on the planet. And we don't have to become this new world rules based order. And they're not going to give away all of these powers and tools and make everybody freer in Russia. They're going to take advantage of every opportunity that they can to benefit themselves, and that's exactly what they have done. But in a more civilized, less criminal manner, is what the people, the oligarchs that are struggling in our side of the fence. So yeah, no, I agree. They're all on the same side to an extent at a level, but how do we as humanity navigate that? I think that we, in here, same comment. I support Russia people. I support Ukrainian people. I support Yugoslavian, Bosnian, Serb, Canadian, American. But every one of these raving lunatics will burn us down if they can rule over the ashes. If they think they themselves might escape the gauntlet with a few shillings in their pocket, and that's what we have to realize is. They all kill people. How do we mitigate the losses on a global scale? I think that's first controlling the dogs of war in where we have influence and ability. We can't control what Russia and China and these other guys are going to do, but as long as our dogs here are barking like they are, that doesn't bode well for us when Putin's finally had enough.
Oh yeah, no, definitely agree, and that's why I've always told people. People are interesting with psychology. That's the one thing is instead of sticking together where we would all win, somebody always wants to be on top, and somebody always wants to be differentiated from the pack. And that is when things kind of go array. So if we all stuck together and we all said, no, we don't want to go to war, we don't want to fight for you, one guy will go, I'll take the money because I don't want to live like the rest of these guys. And then other people go, well, maybe I should take the money too, and I'll end up being a lot better than my neighbor than this. And so you've got the whole greed, envy thing that people really need to stop and reflect on. And so I always tell people I'm anti-war. I'm for the people, because at the end of the day, they're all getting a piece of their money. They're all, in that sense of the way, on the same side. But at the same time, they are people as well, so they want to be on top. And they want to be the leader. And so people need to realize that, yes, they all work together, but it will take one little trigger for someone to go, well, no, I want to be the leader of the world. Let me press that button and let's have it escalate. Now, the one thing I am glad is that Putin is in power right now, because he is very calm and very patient. Like, the man has the patience of I don't even know. So, like, they've been provoking Russia for years. Like, Russia's bad,
Our
Russia's this,
neighbor,
Russia's that.
coincidentally.
Yeah, and so the fact that they haven't like reacted or responded in all of these years, I mean, it's really really surprising. So either Putin has the patience of a saint, or they're just using Russia as a villain in the story to tell us, and they're playing that role gladly because they're getting paid for that role. And so that's where I keep telling people, I'm like, I think they're all on the same side, but at the same time, they're also human beings. And we can't tell when that person will just want to be on top and not play the role that they're being told to play anymore. So that's the interesting thing.
I'm 100% in agreement with you. What our feckless fools here that peacock around masquerading as leaders, uh, they are so foolish in provoking things and thinking that they're going to get away with it. They're going to get away with it, and they keep escalating, thinking they're going to get away with it. Not understanding. We talked about this a little bit last night. That they tell us here, oh, Putin's under pressure in his country. Well, yeah, he is, to bomb the shit out of us, and he won't. And that's the pressure that he's facing over there. Which should scare the bejesus out of us if we knew and understood at a mass level. And as much as the man scares me, I am grateful for his patience, because we are as innocent as the people that are being lives are being ruined over there. And although I'm fully unqualified to speak to this comment, I do want to bring it up because I think that this is critical in understanding this. As you said, people are we're still people, we're still human, and over there, the fight. They haven't given up their faith like we have over here, and they fight from a sense of principles and ethics and morality that we used to hear and we do not anymore. And that is a critical factor when we put our Borg, society against a society that measures victory differently. And this is why we cannot win. The Pentagon here, these meat muppets, measure victory by the mile in the Ukraine, whereas the Russians measure victory, but by what they are doing for a greater power, for victory for God and the things that they believe in their faith. And I'll say often at the end of the day, God wins. That's up to Him. I'm not anybody to speak to that. I'm fully unqualified. So I'm bringing this to the table from a philosophical level to understand that this has a very legitimate impact on what's happening, not just on the battlefield over there, but what's happening in our culture right here, with more and more churches being burned down, more and more attacks on not just the Jewish sect, but all of the non-Islamic or non the Christian faiths here. Nobody is fighting for that level of victory. We're all measuring it by the moment in the material and standing up for that kind of fight So I think ultimately, if we don't start looking at how we are going to measure victory and understand that just beating this law or getting that politician removed is actually a victory, if it's not taking our nation to that next level that we grew up in appreciating. This is the freedom that we thought was granted to us that's slipping away. And it has very much to do with those few words in our documentation in the US and in Canada. And whether we are believers or not, those are the rules of our society. And we collectively are not upholding them because we're not measuring them from that human factor. Do you think that I'm onto something with that, Tayana? I don't know if you or anybody else out there has any kind of faith of any kind, and really, I don't care. That's not my business. This is just how I'm seeing one of those missing factors that we're not taking into account. That makes it a very different story when you start to take it into account.
Oh, absolutely. The way you, I guess, disarm a country is you demoralize them. So they don't have faith in God. They don't have faith in their country. So they become less patriotic. And then you see people who have gone way too far on the left, and they are not just demoralized. They are, I guess, depressed. They don't know who they are. They don't have a sense of identity. There's no sense of root or community if you take out God and then you take out the patriotism. So now you not only don't have a national identity, you really have no way of, I guess, connecting with other people. And I kind of know this coming from a different country. So, where my mentality is talking with my hands, being very loud, being passionate, I would be considered normal in any Slavic country because that's our mentality. And then when I came to Canada, I realized, okay, you can't talk with your hands that much. You know, you can't just be like loud screaming because people think you're mad. Even though you're not, you're just happy. You're just a passionate person. And so when you take that identity and the nationality away from a country, you basically disarm them because then you have nobody left to fight for that country because they don't believe in anything. They not only don't believe in the country or the flag, they don't believe in God. They have no sense of community or connection with any human being. They're just alone in this fight on the internet with whatever the media tells them. And so basically, you don't even need to fight. China could come in and just take over at any time. And these NPCs will believe it because they want some sort of sense of identity. They want a sense of like community. And if you tell them, hey, if this country comes in and takes us over, that's what you'll get. And they will vote for that in and they will usher it in without a fight. And so that is why they're trying to demoralize the West completely and utterly with everything that they've tried so that they are easily governed. And but I don't think it's going to be another country. I don't think it's going to be China that comes in or anything. But that's the way they will usher in globalism and a one world government. Because to them, they're saying, oh, well, we'll get unity. We'll get unity. But people are so lost. The people that have gone so far left are so lost that they don't understand what one world government means. It doesn't mean we're going to come together, we're going to have a community, and we're going to save the planet. It means we're going to be enslaved. They have absolutely no intention of making our lives better or easier because they could have done that years ago and let us build our own cities, our own systems, because the more regulation you have, the less efficient something is. And so, what these kids and these NPCs who have gone so far without having an identity don't understand is that human beings are tribal by nature.
Yes.
And so,
We
right?
are
And so, I
hardwired
haven't.
for belief systems, and tribal survival. I mean, that's how we survived from being cavemen in tribes in numbers. But sorry to interrupt, but you've mentioned a couple of times, and I need you to save me a whole bunch of emails and comments later on. Explain to the folks up there what you mean by NPC. They're gonna go, wait, I'm
Oh,
gonna get
sorry.
dozens of messages going. What does she mean NPC?
So NPCs are non-player characters, and in a video game, they're a character not being played by anyone. They're those characters that just walk around and just say one sentence, and they just repeat the same thing. And NPCs in real life are the ones who just repeat whatever the media tells them because they have absolutely no thought of their own. They don't even realize how hypocritical they are on most of their movements. They just repeat whatever the media tells them, and they honestly think that they're being virtuous and good people without even realizing that they're being used as puppets. So NPC just means non-player character, and it means somebody without a thought in their brain, and they just do what they're told, and they do not think anything through because they don't have the brain power or the brain cells to actually think anything through. So
So carry on. Sorry to interrupt, but I couldn't agree more. It's that it's leaving us cutting our tether to what makes Canada Canadian, makes it gives us value in that community. Fighting for Canada meant something. In my grandfather's era, they entire communities signed up in 1939 to go and fight the Germans. They didn't wait till 1944 or 1941. They went in 1939, lost entire generations. Some provinces lost, Newfoundland lost an entire generation of young men. They didn't do that for money. They did that for faith in that exact higher power of that is necessary to have a civil society, and that is what they are waging war against. I believe in this culture war, in making us the first non-secular post-nation state, so that we won't find that inherent value that we would sacrifice anything for, regardless. And that's what to me, I guess, is the baseline that I can see that in the real patriots. That doesn't mean that they're out there, arming people or calling for crazy shit. No, they're the ones that are no, and they mean
yeah.
it, and they will do whatever it takes to defend the people that matter to them, and they're the ones sticking their head above the parapet, taking the abuse, and being targets for those illegitimate Borg clone troopers. So my
Oh,
take.
absolutely. And I think that's the main reason why a lot of people like move to Alberta. So if you look at the influx of whether it's immigrants or people moving from other areas of Canada who are Canadian into Alberta, Alberta has had the number one influx in the world of people coming to Alberta. And so what is it? Our weather sucks. Like it's minus 40 to minus 60 in the winter. It is the worst place to live in the winter. But like what keeps us together is Alberta's loud. We have a connection. We have that attitude of we don't want Ottawa, keep Ottawa out of Alberta. We are Alberta. We have the oil and gas. We're pro farmers. We stick together on almost every single incident that has happened. Fort Mac fires back in I think it was 2019, 18, 17. I can't really remember what year. This year as well. Neighbors come together to help each other out with getting livestock off their farms. And so you don't really see that level of community in Vancouver, Lower Mainland. You don't see that in Toronto or Ontario. Everyone's very separate. You will see that in the Maritimes because they're just the Maritimes. They're small, island or almost an island.
They
And
depend on
so,
each other,
yeah, they
and
need
they're
each
okay
other.
with it.
Exactly, and they depend on each other and they see each other as a community, but you don't really see that in Quebec. You don't really see that in Ontario. Saskatchewan's still very small. It's mainly farmers, it's oil and gas, but Alberta is the loudest, and that is why they're trying to demoralize Alberta so hard. I mean, with
Well,
the globalists trying to come in with the land grabs, northern BC has started as well, and with northern BC, Alberta comes to their aid because we all work in the patch. We've all been to northern BC. We're pretty much the same, except they just have a lot more snow plows than we have.
well,
Um,
that's where the strong mayor's powers actually come into play, is to strong arm the social contract within the communities to supersede what they want when they swear their oath to their strong mayor's coven, over and above what they were elected to represent in the seats that they hold. So Tajana, we're on the top of the hour here. I want to thank you so much. This was a really great conversation. We got to dive into some things that we don't ordinarily get to, and get some perspectives that we don't ordinarily get. But just before I let you go, just so that you're witness, I want to answer a couple of comments here in here that Canada was always a myth. Correct. It will be broken up just like Yugoslavia was. That is their objective. This is one that I want to correct. After World War II, Canada was supposed to decolonize. The correction here is that we were supposed to decolonize, which was to separate ourselves and gain our independence in 1931. Well, that's when we were supposed to stand on our own in Canada and create the nation that we had accumulated at that point. So, just a couple of those minor little things. I want to thank you again, Tajana, for taking the time to do this fabulous conversation. We definitely need to do this more often. Tell people, give people a 10-second overview of what you got coming up, what you're sticking your fingers into, and where to find you before we close this out.
I just want to say thank you for having me again. It's always a pleasure being on your show because I always have fun and we talk about so many different things. Right now, I'm just trying to regather and do the initiative for Canadians, People for the People, so that we have a parallel society in case they decide to lock us down again, or they decide to play their games on us, that we have a stronghold, a community built across Canada of freedom fighters, patriots, and people who truly love this country. And I can be found on Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok if you just use the Truthseeker 01011. Some of my places, I don't have my first name, so the Truthseeker name is definitely the search.
It's your secret code, 01011.
Yeah, it's the exit to the Matrix code. And so if I ever find that door, I am so like I'm gonna fly through that door, but I haven't found the exit the Matrix door yet. So but that's the code in case anybody else
Fantastic.
defines it.
That's so cool. That is so cool. So awesome. Really look forward to doing this again soon, Tajana. All
Yeah,
right, you
same
take
here.
care.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.
Oops, my bad. Trigger happy on the buttons. Guys, that was just fabulous. Hope you guys really enjoyed that. Uh, Always a great conversation, but it's always interesting, I think, and has so much more value when you get somebody that can give you a legitimate, different eyewitness take, and she definitely do not take her for just being another dizzy blonde out there in the Matrix. Oh no, 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 no! That girl has 2 degrees and a really, really potent bullshit meter. So I encourage you guys to for great information and sometimes the deepest rabbit holes, I would suggest get Tajana on. She is absolutely, yes, she's absolutely a fantastic guest. Um, Working on some other ones for next week. Tomorrow is going to be chaos. Chaos, I'm sure, I say. Um, so, on that note, I love you guys all. Thank you so much, my fellow patriots and hostages, for finding some time to hang out with us here tonight and join our discussion. Make sure you double check your subscription button, that you're subscribed and getting notifications. It looks like our show was able to go out on Rumble tonight. I don't know why they hid the last nights. Probably way too much truth. Um, so yeah, with the new 5-day-a-week format, a lot of people are just finding us again on Rumble. My website is kind of down, nothing new there to see, folks, until we get that fixed. But in the meantime, between time, love you all. Stay strong. Don't let the boogeyman into the house. I really want to find some time to talk about a couple of the partners that we have with this platform, and I think there's some mistaken information, and I think we need to clear some of that up. So, yeah, I'm just going to say good evening with these guys, and I hope you look into it. You find them on their website as well, and we'll see you tomorrow.